So for as long as I could remember, I grew up in a Christian household. I had two Christian loving parents who taught me right from wrong. And until about 13 years old, I kind of thought that I knew what Christianity was and who Jesus was. And I remember having moments where I would come to my mom or my dad and being like, I believe in Jesus, I do. But I never fully understood the gravity of the situation. So from about 13 to 16 years old, there was a lot of reckless desire, worldly pursuits, even just in the simplicity of the social status that I had in school, how I wanted more friends, how I wanted to be the funniest guy in class, how I wanted everyone to look at me and glorify me. Every time that I stood up and tried to get the attention of other people, someone would be there to say, Zach, it's not about you. And that made me very angry. And that made me a very resentful 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old. And over time, the me monster just got hungrier and hungrier. And every single thing I was doing to gain the approval of others, to fulfill my to satisfy my desires, to really build my kingdom, it kind of just continued to grow. My urges to do that just continued to grow. And I was about 17 when I really started to disconnect from church. And whenever I started driving, I, kind of had the option to not go to church. I just remember thinking how much of a waste of time it was, and how offended I felt whenever someone told me that they wanted to spend time with me and learn about my faith and learn more about where I was in my faith, because I never really was anywhere. I didn't truly believe any of it. At about 18 years old, I totally disconnected from church. I totally disconnected from my family, and I moved away. I moved into a really sketchy house with two guys who I barely knew, and I started partying. I started drinking. I started smoking. I started spending time with the wrong type of people, and I just dove into the world of feed your own desires, and I dove into the world of self-satisfaction. Sin promises everything and leaves you feeling so empty. I remember going to bed every night thinking I have no one. About a year ago, I'd say, my brother Anderson gave me a phone call, and he was like, dude, I'm getting baptized, and I wanted you to come and see what God's done in my life. And I remember being so offended by the idea of my little brother believing that this was a real, way of living. And so for some reason it drew me in. For some reason I was so offended that I was like, all right, if my little brother thinks this is real, I don't know, there's just something about this that's just pulling me back in. There was just something so compelling that brought me in to, back into this idea of faith. And so I started to become more exposed to the people, and I got more exposed to my family, and I started to open myself and say, you know what, guys, I don't really know what I'm doing here. I don't really know who God is or what this Jesus thing is about. But you seem way happier with Jesus than without Jesus, and I've been really unhappy without Jesus. So if he's real, I want in. I had a conversation with Caleb, and he shared something so profound that I'd never truly wrapped my head around, is God calls you to wrestle with him. God calls you to ask him to reveal himself to you. And as soon as I heard that, I got in the car afterwards and I just started thinking more and more about, man, like, God, are you real? Like, are you doing something is there a reason I'm here right now? And feeling that understanding of, this isn't just something you have to believe. This is something you can ask the Lord to reveal to you. This is where you can open up and say, I'm not totally sure if I believe this. I don't really know if I'm about what you guys are about, but I'll bite. Like, I'll consider. And as soon as that happened, I got just pulled in by the love and the grace of God. And I saw things from people that had known me for so long. Whenever I came back to church the first day, it was like the most overwhelming sense of love and just genuine care for me. And it was not just from the people. It was just an otherworldly feeling of acceptance. And God was truly there, working in my life. And so as I kind of continued to pursue Him, it started to become more apparent that He was real. I'm Zach, and this is my story.